wedded, conjoined in a subway shop. Whoa. I am married to my Funko Pop. Whoa. We got joined, co-writers in a subway shop. Whoa. Vitamins and biscuits and minerals, they come to me through a tube. My whole life is spent watching on a tube. Whoa-oh. Whoa-oh-oh-oh. Whoa. I'm married to a Funko Pop. Whoa. We got wedded, we got joined in a subway shop. Whoa. Vitamins and minerals, they come to me through a tube. Vitamins and minerals, they come from me through this here tube. Whoa. Funko. I got married to my Funko Pop. Whoa. We got wedded, we got joined in a subway shop. Whoa. Love at first sight, what shall I do with love at first sight? Put it in my hand, throw it on the ground, who knows, just what will I do?
We got wedded, conjoined in a subway shop. Whoa.
Guinea pig stuff in Africa is so insane. The human guinea pig stuff in Africa is so insane. Is so insane.
I got married to a Funko Pop. Whoa. We got wedded, conjoined in a subway shop. Whoa. I am married to my Funko Pop. Whoa. We got got joined, co-writers in a subway shop. Whoa. Vitamins and biscuits and minerals, they come to me through a tube. My whole life is spent watching on a tube. Whoa-oh. Whoa-oh-oh-oh. Whoa. I'm married to a Funko Pop. Whoa. We got wedded, we got joined in a subway shop. Whoa. Vitamins and minerals, they come to me through a tube. Vitamins and minerals, they come from me through this here tube. Whoa. I got married to my Funko Pop. Whoa. We got wedded, we got joined in a subway shop. Whoa. Love at first sight, love at first sight. What shall I do with love at first sight? Put it in my hand, throw it on the ground. Who knows? Just what will I do?
We got wedded, conjoined in a subway shop. Whoa.
The human guinea pig stuff in Africa is so insane. The human guinea pig stuff in Africa is so insane. Is so insane. Is so insane. Is so insane.
Funko. Funko. Oh, oh, oh. Funko. Funko. Oh, oh, oh. I got married to a Funko Pop. Whoa. We got wedded, conjoined in a subway shop. Whoa. I am married to my Funko Pop. Whoa. We got joined, co-writers in a subway shop. Whoa. Vitamins and biscuits and minerals, they come to me through a tube. My whole life is spent watching on a tube.
what's up? Welcome, everybody. We're finally going to do this stream. I know we said we would do it a whilst back, but hey, I'm pretty good at delaying and pausing my streams. What? I don't understand what the heck are you people talking about? You guys are... Lex Luthor says that people that follow my channel are not achieving transcendence. Bro, there's about 5 million Instagram chicks and gurus that you could follow to achieve that transcendence. The only transcendence that you're going to achieve over here is when you don my yogurt pants, which you find over at my OnlyFans, my page. They're all pictures of me in my yogurt pants. You get to see a little side cheek because I cut my yogurt pants into Daisy Duke, so I wear Daisy Duke yogurt pants for my clips. So you want to transcend, that's how you do it. Plus I got 1001 bottles of baby oil. Pete Diddy only got 1,000, and now he ain't got none because they all got auctioned off by the feds. You know, right now they're auctioning off Johnson P. Diddy baby oil. Whoa, whoa. Every time I play that now as the opening song, people say, "You gotta clip that, bro." Bruh, dude. Like, why y'all so lazy? Why y'all is so lazy? Look right here. On the front page, the damn home page. There's a whole playlist of the hits. You got I'm Simpy Simp. You got Quasimodo. You got I'm in love with a hobby. You got classics like Gossiping. You got Just Wanna Meet New People. You got Whoa, Married to a Funko Pop. You got Ooh, Pay Piggy. You got all the hits right here. You got Sexy Little Communist. All right there in one easy, accessible. Oh, I can't forget British Eyes. British Eyes and British Thighs. There's a few B-sides that didn't make it to the A-sides. A few EP B-sides. You know, like I'm a Feminist Rapper is a B-side. Charles Manson Rap B-side. So they're all on the front page, easily accessible. Please share them with your friends. Somebody said, you really need to make an album. I just haven't got around to doing that. I guess you have to... I guess you gotta... What's that website? You gotta sign up for that website where you sell your songs. I just haven't gotten around to doing that. So today we return to the classic topics. As you know, we started blogging many years ago about esoteric Hollywood. And we did that because I got into, in my grad work, studying the relationship between Hollywood and the intelligence agencies, the deep state apparatus, etc. And that long-term marriage between these things, which most people don't know about. And of course, yes, it spills over into many different agencies. The FBI has had a long history with film in Hollywood. The CIA has obviously had a long history with film in Hollywood. The OSS prior to that did. Military intelligence prior to the OSS and CIA obviously did. British intelligence had a long role in the UK's establishment in that special relationship over there. Obviously, the Mossad has had a very important role in Hollywood. I think people like Arnon Milchan are well known as Mossad. So, you know, there's nothing new to this. It's pretty well known. But when you say this to a lot of normies or to kind of average people, like, it just sounds crazy, right? It sounds like, what? There's no way. That's schizo. Certified schizo. You are schizo. Why are you laughing? Why are you laughing? Because I'm Alaskan? Jamie's giggling. But that's just a sign that you're a normie and you don't know anything. That's just a sign that you got that Benjamin Franklin IQ, aka 100. I look like Michael Fassbender about to engage in what? That kill shot? Pop, pop. So we got to go back in time. We got to go back to the old world, to the old school times. And I've not read this book yet. I keep wanting to get to it. But I think it's going to fit well with a lot of stuff that we already know, which is that, you know, we go back to Queen Elizabeth's time. And even if you watch mainline movies like what's old Kate Blanchett's, what was her movie? Elizabeth. Did you remember that? Did you remember that this is espionage and spy related stuff? If I recall, there's like a Jesuit assassin too, right? I'm not trying to get into that low tier Seventh-day Adventist level Jesuit conspiracy stuff, which is super stupid. I'm just talking about going back and remembering this movie. By the way, isn't it Eric Cantona that plays like the Jesuit spy? I'm trying to remember. Something like that. And Eric Cantona ended up actually becoming a Calvinist. And we used to email each other back in the day when he used to read my blog, and I was going out of Catholicism and out of Reform stuff, and I was into Catholicism, and I guess he was wondering, and he was trying to figure out whether Calvinist theology or Catholic theology was right. This is like 2008. It was a long time ago. Maybe 9 or 10. But he's in this, and I think he plays the Jesuit assassin. I mean, I could be wrong. He might play a Protestant assassin. Or maybe he's one of Elizabeth's assassins. Anyway, the point is, she was like a powdered donut there. The point of this is that what most people don't know is that her most famous spy in real life was, of course, the first 007, John Dee. And I do want to read this new book here, John Dee and the Empire of Angels, Enochian Magic and the Occult Roots of the Modern World by Jason Lowe. Lowe. She is love, and her waves are high and steep. She is love, and I believe her when she speaks. Now, my theory, by the way, this looks like Legend of Zelda stuff. Look at this. My theory has been for a long time that if you look at the Enochian magic tables, look at that. That's like Zelda's underworld. About to fight Ganon underneath here. The Enochian magic tables and all this gibberish. I think this was probably ways to do cryptography. So he's sending messages back to his powder donut queen, his slay queen, his queen. And so he would be using these kinds of sigils to send cryptographic messages. And if you didn't know that, I'll show you John Dee's signature. So this is the symbol that he would use when he would write messages back. And you can see it's a 007. So Ian Fleming consciously chose that as the symbol for James Bond. Because there's a spicy smattering of esotericism in the Bond novels. It's here and there. It's not massive, but there's a smattering of it. And I think pretty clearly that's where he was referencing this, was from the Enochian tradition here of John Dee. But what's the point of all that? Well, here we kind of have, at this phase, an overlap between the nobility, aristocracy, and the occult world, the secret society world, but also the acting world. I've not really been able to find a lot of information on this. I did find one kind of normie history of espionage book, which talks about the history of spying and the British Empire and all that. And I think it mentions a couple actors, but my suspicion is that there were probably many actors and actresses who were part of Elizabeth's spy network. And she is a fascinating character. I mean, I'm not that interested in some Protestant queen, but I mean, she did have this very successful spy network, and she seemed to be pretty savvy about propaganda and how all this stuff works. And if you've ever seen that painting of her with the eyes on the painting symbolize her spy network. Yeah, this painting here. Her dress has eyes all over it. And that was because she had a vast spy network for which she was famous. One of whom, her chief spy, of course, being the court magician, alchemist, sorcerer, and probably con man, John Dee. This also comes up if you read Dame Frances Yates' famous book, Rosicrucian Enlightenment, which is a great book because it goes into the history of the overlap between the Rosicrucian secret societies, the relationship of them to the nobility at the time, and the philosophical enlightenment, the scientific revolution. And it's a pretty classic text. It's very academic. It's a Routledge publication. It's not a conspiracy book. So if you've never read this book, it is a conspiracy text. This is the copy I have here. I recommend this book for those who like to study this topic from an academic perspective. As you know, we always avoid the really outlandish, speculative conspiracy topics. We try to stick to what can be demonstrated in the literature. And I think that's a much more effective way to discuss these topics than flights of fancy. If we do discuss flights of fancy, I try to say when and how and where I'm being speculative. Next up, though, is that this tradition of, and by the way, the other spy is Sir Walter Raleigh. He's the one that famously said the world is not enough. He's later, though. I don't think he's Elizabeth's spy. But the Bond phrase, world's not enough, that comes from Sir Walter Raleigh. His dates, he might have been under Elizabeth. Yes, he was also one of her famous court spies. So, but this is where Ian Fleming got the phrase, the world's not enough, because all of this was really designed to kind of back up the British Empire. What does what mean? The world is not enough? It means that, like, even if the Queen owns the whole world, it's not enough. That's what it means. It means greed, dude. So this is kind of the British imperial legends, and I mean, this is true, it's not a legend, but this is the background, the story of spycraft and esotericism and the overlap with the acting world, even, I suspect, in the British Empire, because Elizabeth's vast network of spies also included people from all walks of life. So she didn't just have spies that were, these magicians and nobles. She had spies everywhere. She had street urchin spies, like you see Sherlock Holmes, right? Sherlock Holmes has street level hobo spies, hobo spy networks. She probably had brothel spy networks, like we've seen in our recent text we've covered. Sir Francis Drake, that's an interesting question. I've never looked to see, was Sir Francis Drake a spy? Let's see. Because he pops up. Was he a pirate? Was he a spy? I mean, probably everybody was at this time, right? Privateer. Commissioned by Elizabeth. Superstitious Spanish mariners believed that Drake had a magic mirror that allowed him to spy. So I don't see anything right in terms of like a accessible search. I mean, there could be deeper information, but nothing pops up immediately that he was a spy. Here's one. One person speculating that spies were trying to subvert Sir Francis Drake. So I don't know if he was a spy though, but a lot of times like the mainstream stories are not very, they don't go into much depth. For example, Tolkien was involved in espionage, cryptography work, just at an intellectual level. They might have even toyed with using his Elvish, I'm not joking either, for cryptography. I don't think they did, though. He worked on cryptography for a little while during World War II, and then didn't continue with it. So I don't think. But I think that Tolkien, as we've seen, was able to deduce enough from what he saw at the university and at his time in the military and the year or so he did of espionage work, cryptography work. He probably saw how the system works, and that's why you see this common theme between the Space Trilogy and Lord of the Rings trilogy, pretty much critiquing technocracies. The novels are really allegorically about the NWO. And we've covered that many, many times. But as I've noticed, people don't have a very good memory. And so it doesn't matter how many times you cover stuff, you have to restate it about 50 times before it starts to sink into people's heads. So I guess we have to just do, mainstream media style repetitive mind control, because that's the only way people remember stuff. That's why people believed all the Russia hoax nonsense, was because the mainstream media basically just repeated it nonstop for how many years. It didn't matter whether it was true or not. People just believed it because of the repetition. And I think Richard Grove just covered that, actually, that repetition is a kind of a technique of mind control. We're also being, I think their memory holding stuff by the internet is turning into a giant censorship engine. That's the sad part, is that stuff is getting definitely memory hold. That's why you have to have books. You cannot remember or know any of the stuff without books. All right, so again, we're kind of working our way up through history. I usually like to do it this way, where we work our way from history up to the present day in terms of understanding these topics. Now, we were talking about this early stage of Elizabethan spy networks, acting and all of that. Globe theater, the world's a globe. There's a lot of esoteric stuff in Shakespeare. By the way, we've never actually done a big Shakespearean esoteric breakdown. We should probably do that someday. But I think, the public is so uneducated that the more I focus on these really interesting academic topics, nobody watches it. Nobody reads it. The internet is dying. Just go to books. Yeah, this is really what we've been saying the whole time, right? You got to have books. And they're going to continue. And you can't have these stupid PDFs or electronic files either, because, as we've already seen, they're going to start censoring the electronic texts in terms of the Western canon. They've called for the banning of Tolkien, the banning of James Bond, the banning of C.S. Lewis too, I think. And even the banning of Huxley, even though Huxley was one of their own, they still have called to ban his books, which is bizarre, but 1984 probably too. But what they're going to do is start altering the e-versions. And Richard Grove was prophetic, because he predicted that when they introduced the Kindle. Remember, Richard said about 10 or more years ago that the word Kindle is telling you Fahrenheit 451 book burning. They're going to Kindle your actual books, and you're going to have to rely on e-copies that have been censored. Now, they're already doing this with movies too. We're not going to talk about censorship. This is just a little sidetrack because somebody made a comment that made me think of this. They're already putting up disclaimers about movies. I'm hearing tale of tell of movies that are already having scenes deleted. TV shows are having scenes deleted. I mean, even just innocuous stuff like The Office is too edgy. This is crazy, right? Stuff from like 10 years ago, 15 years ago is too edgy. And yeah, here's the weird part. At the same time, the most degenerate stuff is supposed to be accepted. Think about the moral and logical contradiction involved in that. It's bad to have certain words that hurt people, but it's not bad to actually literally harm children. That's how crazy this stuff is. When we go into upside down world, the inversion, as we've talked about for how many years. Yeah, this is why you're not going to be able to trust new books. I thought about this too when I was going to a Barnes and Noble the other day, and I was like, how do we know they're not already censoring and editing out stuff in books? If you remember in the Day tapes, remember the Richard Day tapes? They said back in 1969 that they would already at that time go out and start removing books from libraries. And as people have no reading comprehension, reading skills, as people get continually dumbed down, the masses aren't even going to read anyway. They already don't read. So things are getting crazy. They're getting weird. The IT Crowd episode with the blank got banned from what, The Office? What show are you guys talking about? Yeah, I was watching the Van Damme movies, and like a lot of the goofy one-liners of Van Damme won't be. You can't say those anymore. It's pretty funny. You'll see. We'll get to that when we do our. We're gonna call it. Jamie had the perfect title. It's the Van Dammeganza. So I've gone back through most of the canon of JCVD. And I actually just watched JCVD last night. I'd never seen JCVD, which very interesting film. It's not at all what you expect it to be. And it's kind of a artsy, independent, meta satire of Van Damme. And then we're going to cover Van Damme's... I think all dudes found Bloodsport to be something that resonated, because there was no UFC in the 80s or even early 90s. Or UFC starts around early 90s, but it was very hard to get a hold of, or you had to find like VHSs of it. They removed the preacher scene from Dawn of the Dead. Interesting. Anyway, so that's going to be fun. But back to the cults, and the Jim Cotta's funny too. That's a pretty wild movie. There's like those El Topo type scenes in Jim Cotta, which are crazy. I mean, Jim Cotta's a terrible movie, but it was a lot of fun to go back and watch these Van Damme movies. Also, I have a suspicion that Van Damme might have some espionage element, a connection, or he at least has knowledge of all that. But so back to the esoteric tradition and the overlap with Hollywood. Again, I want to remind you guys, it's great to go back and listen to the interviews that we've done over the years, like with Dr. Richard Spence. No, not Richard Spencer, and no, not Dr. Richard Spence. It's the Richard Spence who specializes in espionage. Totally different person. This guy. Mr. Crowley. How does Ozzy sing it? I'm trying to remember that Ozzy song. Mama, I'm coming home. Mama. I don't know why this never comes up. Here it is. So if you never watched this interview, it's really good. And this is a key piece of information that few people know. From back in the day, 9 years ago. So when you get a chance, go and watch the interview with Dr. Richard Spence, because we saw with here the most famous Satanist of the last century just happens to be a British intelligence operative. It just happens to be MI5. And of course, he's involved in all kinds of wild provocateuring, agent provocateur stuff. He's involved in propagandizing. He's involved in, luring Richard Hess to fly into Scotland on the basis of Hess's belief in esoteric stuff. And this is another key insight into the fact that these occult views, these occult famous figures, are usually people that in some way are controlled by the establishment and are part of some intelligence apparatus. And as we saw in my lectures through the sex espionage book, if you didn't see this, go back and watch my talks that we did through the Donald Bower. These are mainline history books. So these are not conspiracy books. Dr. Spence's book, he's a professor at a University of Iowa or something like that. Idaho, I forget where, but none of this is conspiracy material. It's just kind of mainline academia that nobody knows about. And people don't read books, so they don't know that mainline academia teaches this stuff. The Bower text was great because we saw overlap with people who were in entertainment. You could count the most famous honey trap, Mata Hari. I mean, she was a salon dancer, club dancer, cabaret dancer, whatever you want to call it. So that counts as entertainment. Many of the other spies, famous Japanese spies, were geishas. So that's a kind of entertainment, you could say. And so that pops up quite a bit. Not every sex operative, obviously, is a part of entertainment, the entertainment world, but many of them have been. In fact, one of the most famous Cold War Soviet spies, Richard Sorge, he was finally destroyed because he was entrapped by a geisha dancer named Kiyomi. And then Smersh killed Kiyomi as revenge for Sorge. Now, the reason I brought this up is that the KGB got really good at perfecting Skittles entrapment. There's a whole chapter in the book, the Bower book, about Skittles entrapment. Girls and boys. Girls who like boys to be girls. Always should be someone you really love, to quote Blur. People think I don't know. Slowboy thinks I don't know the great battle between Blur and Oasis. Oh, I know it. I was there at the time. I mean, I was there in the 90s. I wasn't in the UK at the time. But I had Park Life. I had the next 2 or 3 Blur albums. But, I mean, Oasis just always won out with Blur. I mean, Oasis was like the working class blokes, that just didn't give an F and made it. And weren't Blur kind of like the more snotty upper end type guys? So, but I mean, I appreciate several Blur songs. I had forgotten that one song that I was playing last night. She's So High. That's a great Blur song. Damon Albarn is into the occult. Yeah, it's funny because I didn't really think about that. And then I was playing a newer Blur song because I haven't listened to Blur or checked in on Blur in like 15 years. And the live concert footage video of Blur, they had the Crowleyan 8-sided star, like a gigantic Crowleyan 8-sided star. So yeah, it doesn't surprise me that Blur would be involved in something, which I assume, I mean, that could be used in multiple esoteric traditions or religious or ritual magic schools, but I assume that's Crowleyan probably. And we all know this is why we're talking about Crowley right now. I mean, for whatever reason, this becomes like the ultimate form of occultism that most of the Hollywood music industry people are into. And I'm going to have a theory as to why I think that is. I mean, obviously, the British intelligence aspect of it is very useful. The prominence of SEX magic, that's pretty much, the essence of Crowley. That's huge, obviously. But there's some other things, too, that I think make the Crowley side of this, the Crowley side, the Crowley element, so useful for Hollywood and movies, and music. Yes, he went from Blur to Gorillaz, correct. But again, most people don't know this very crucial element of Crowley involved in espionage. That's key to understand. So go check that out. Now, another key figure that I didn't realize until we lectured through the Cambridge Companion, which again we read, Jamie and I, on the drive to Las Vegas and back, which ended up being a way longer drive than I expected. We read almost this entire book, almost all 400 pages, 500 pages, almost 500. And we saw that multiple people in the esoteric schools of the last century also seem to have this curious overlap of being spies. And we can understand why. It's obviously, it makes sense to have this cover of being, oh, I'm an esoteric traveler on my spiritual vision quest. I'm going to the Himalayas to get enlightenment or whatever, to talk to the ascended masters, brah. But that's a cover for, I'm actually going to meet my Soviet handler. And in the case of Madame Blavatsky, that seems to be the case. And she was suspected from the earliest days of being a Russian spy. But I don't think she was a Russian spy ultimately. I think she was playing both sides because we think that Johann Ratiu is correct in his book that she was actually a Fabian socialist operative for the Milner Rothschild circles. So Blavatsky was a spy, but probably not a, quote, Russian spy. But if you mean if you by Russian spy you mean, was she working with Nicholas Roerich and the KGB? Yes, but that doesn't mean that she's not also a Fabian socialist spy, because the Fabian socialists loved Bolshevism and the KGB. They thought that it was a great thing, and many of them wrote and spoke favorably of Lenin and all of the KGB operatives. Some of them didn't really like Stalin, but still. So Blavatsky also counts as another one of these spies, and what's interesting about her is that Crowley mandated that people in his cult read Blavatsky. A lot of people don't know that. He made them read, I forget the name of the book, but she had some weird book she wrote, and Crowley thought it was great. And you can see the obvious overlap because Crowley was very influenced by Eastern Tantrism and all of that, and then clearly Theosophy pulls heavily from the same types of sources, Far Eastern mysticism, Hinduism, etc. So these alternative religious movements, what would become the New Age, you can directly trace it to Crowley, Blavatsky, and other people too, like Alice Bailey, her 10-point plan to replace Christianity in the West, which is real. That is really a discussion she has in her works. We did a whole podcast on that. That's all real. The adoption of all of this through the British establishment, British intelligence, the Royal Society, Tavistock, all of that. They're all arms of the same apparatus. They found that the SEX compromise was so useful and so successful, probably wildly beyond what they expected. And for whatever reason, British intelligence and the Soviets and the KGB, they got very proficient at this. And during the Cold War, you had people like Lord Victor, Ralph Child, being presumably very proficient as well. It seems as if he had quite a few people in British intelligence compromised through Skittle stuff. That's really, many people now think, many scholars think, the essence of the Cambridge spy ring was about not just the famous 5 Skittles men, but the Cambridge Apostles, which was a society of Skittles men at Cambridge. There's also another Oxford scandal of Skittles men, too, that were compromised by the KGB. Even Jean Le Carré talks about this period of compromising. I don't know that if you watch the Le Carré documentary, he talks as if he had to befriend this guy that they suspected was KGB and turned out to be KGB. I don't know if that means he just befriended him, or if he had, does it mean he had to do other stuff? I don't know exactly what he means, but would it surprise me that that's what it means. And they actually reference this, what I'm talking about, in Good Shepherd. If you remember, the handler, the original handler to Matt Dadbod, is a Skittles man. Do you remember that? How do you guys not know what Skittles means? How long have we been talking about? You know what I mean. Cambridge Apostles were exactly Blur type dudes. Is Blur actually Skittles? I don't even know. I quit following Blur. By the way, remember Beetle Bomb? I forgot that song, and I heard it last night. I was like, all these Blur songs I forgot about. Everybody remembers Woohoo, right? Song number 2. Woo! Anyway. So the model for this, for America and for our system now, directly comes from the British system. The British models of intelligence operations, of compromise. And there's also a heavy dose of the KGB stuff too, because it seems like the KGB were just really proficient at entrapping people through butt stuff. Exactly. Like if you read these, the Boer book, like freaking 30% of the book is like gay GB operations. It's crazy. And so what does Western intelligence do? Well, they always have this myth, oh, we don't engage in that. Give me a break. You don't engage in the same things that your enemies are doing when you're always saying we have to do what the enemy's doing. Now let's consider that mythology that we don't engage in the West in the same types of operations of Skittle stuff. Oh, really? Like One Nation under blackmail details, and or Jeff Stein McCaffrey, his whole operation. What was the basis for the Jeff Stein McCaffrey operation? Oh, Robert Maxwell. Robert Maxwell, famously working with the Mossad, Israeli intelligence, working with also Soviets and with the CIA. What do we notice there? Oh, playing all sides. So don't give me this nonsense. Oh, the West, we're the good guys. We don't engage in Skittles compromise. Give me a break. Elm Guest House, Savile, Skittles, Poofda, all that stuff. Poofter Diddy, right? P Diddle. So, point being, all of the stuff coming out with Poof Diddy is par for the course. It's not new. It's not unheard of. It's the norm. And I'm not trying to excuse it or act like, oh, well, that makes it like cool, or that makes it. This is what power blocks do to maintain control power. They compromise people. And again, it's not just at the government level. It also occurs, as we've seen with, with Epstein too, because that overlaps with the corporate stuff, or with the music industry. And particularly here, Blackstein is what I think. P. Diddy is basically a black version of Epstein. It's the same model. It's using the structure of how governments and people have used compromise for many decades and applying it in the corporate Def Jam or whatever model he was doing. Now, Diddy wasn't running this operation. He didn't figure all this out. P. Diddy was not some espionage handler, evil genius. He learned all this, it would appear, through the fact that, first of all, his dad was very close to Frank Lucas, who was a famous black gangster. So here's Frank Lucas, black gangster, telling stories, and it does overlap with like freeway Ricky Ross. Freeway Ricky Ross is the black distributor of drugs that he discussed the fact that the CIA was heavily involved in bringing the drugs in, because obviously, like, some street guy, a street level guy, doesn't have the connections to get Colombian cocaine. So who's bringing in all the cocaine? Well, that's where the people that control the borders and control these operations in other countries, that's where that comes in, right? And so the CIA will have deals with certain cartels. They will go to war against other cartels that they don't have a deal with. And that's how the importation occurs. But then it has to be distributed at a street level. So you need a network. And it's actually structured like a business. Catherine Austin Fitts, who was involved in Iran-Contra prosecutions. She was involved in the Bush administration for HUD and all that. I've done multiple interviews with Catherine Austin Fitts. She goes into a lot of detail as to how in the 70s and 80s the whole network of this business was structured. And it's pretty crazy. Not many people talk about this. I think this started coming out with Gary Webb, right? So Gary Webb's book was one of the first to really highlight the Clinton, Mena, Arkansas stuff, the importation of the cocaine. If you watch the Tom Coombs movie, American Made, it's about Barry Seal. Barry Seal's a real guy that was flying it in. And there's many other people involved in those flights to basically fly this stuff in. And that was a joint project between Dems and Republicans. It wasn't, that was the Bushes doing that. Oh, wait a minute. Oh, no, that was the Clintons. It's a joint project there. It's like the CIA is involved in this above the presidential party level. And that's why Iran-Contra was such a big deal, not just for weapons trafficking, but also connected to money from drugs. And where does that come from? Gladio. That's the CIA's decisions to make off-the-books money through alliance with organized crime. Here we go. We're back to organized crime. Now, again, we've been doing, a year of interviews with Sammy the Bull. 1 year of interviews with Sammy the Bull, and we just did a mega awesome interview, which none of you watched, and the algorithm is not promoting, probably because it was so good. Right here, Sammy the Bull exclusive. Probably because I put Trump in the title is probably why nobody watched it, or the algorithm didn't promote it. I mean, this is the most famous living gangster, the most famous living hitman. I did an 1.5-hour interview with him. And by the way, on his channel, on his Patreon, we did like an 1.5-hour, 2-hour interview on conspiracy stuff. We talked about JFK, we talked about the CIA, we talked about Operation Underworld, we talked about, all of the Sicilian Mafia drug trafficking. We went into all of that history. So there's that. And the reason I'm bringing that up is that this is another indicator that we're correct about making these connections and the assessment, the analysis that we've had for so long. And, good books like, I forget which, somebody in the chat recommended, this is a great book, Mafia Dynasty by John Davis. This goes into a lot of this material. It's not a conspiracy book. It's just kind of a mainline historical analysis of the Gambinos. Of course, Sammy was amongst the Gambinos. And this, of course, led to the end of the prominence and power of the Mafia, at least as far as the 60s, 70s, and 80s, when they were kind of still at their peak. Sammy the Bull is, of course, the source of that fall, because he brought down John Gotti, because Gotti was going to blame everything on Sammy. The FBI had recordings of all that, played that for Sammy, and Sammy said, well, I gave my life to this. I'm not going to take everything for this guy who I was so devoted to. And so he flipped. And then we get the end of the Gambinos and pretty much the end of the traditional mafia as we know it. There are still people out there that are part of organized crime. So it's not completely gone, but it doesn't have the power that it used to have during that time period. I remember in the Selwyn Robb book, which is kind of the mainline official academic history of the mafia, he says something like by the 1970s, 60s or 70s, I forget which decade, probably 60s, that was the height, and I think they were the equivalent, like the five families, right, American mafia, that they were the equivalent of like something like Coca-Cola, right? I mean, they were like a multiple billion-dollar organization at that time. But as the FBI continued sort of busting them and so forth. They start getting busted. And then you have the corporations coming into Vegas, and that really they really just were bought out. And then by the 1980s, when you have pretty much the collapse of it after Sammy the Bull and the bringing down of John Gotti, it's pretty much a very pale reflection of what it was back in the day. So, but the interesting thing there is that this overlap with Hollywood and the music industry is also very tightly linked to organized crime, as well as the intelligence agencies, as well as secret societies. All of these overlap. And if you think about organized crime, if you know about the Omerta and all that, it's really just another kind of secret society. And the Sicilian mafia, although they did have a lot of power and influence and control, they were actually set up and organized by Meyer Lansky and the Jewish mafia. So even the Sicilian mafia, which did have power, they had to actually ask permission for certain things from Jewish mafia. Even to the point of, I think it's the Gus Russo book, Supermob. There's a chapter in there where like they had to get permission from the Jewish mafia as to who could play Michael Corleone, which is interesting. So that's all real, verifiable history, and all of that overlaps again with the music industry. Former music executive describes a scary meeting that resulted in today's violent rap music. So this is a Business Insider article from 2012, and this talks about how there was this higher level decision, presumably the CIA, that was involved in calling the shots, and not just the CIA. Obviously, this would be other intelligence agencies. Yes, we're all well aware of that. Making these decisions at a very high level as to what type of cultural engineering would be pushed and promoted. So this is factual. By the way, my publisher has a book that I don't have with me because I'm at a different place. It's called Drugs as a Weapon Against Us. It also goes into the long-time connections between organized crime and the music industry, as well as intelligence agencies, using popular music to push new ideas, new agendas, push things like gangster rap, push the idea that selling drugs is going to be a glamorous lifestyle, glamorizing the gangster rap lifestyle, etc. All that. That was a decision made in the 1990s. It wasn't all some random organic thing. And then when we get into the history, which is now kind of emerging and becoming public with the arrest of Diddy. Now, it's not just the arrest of Diddy. We kind of have known a lot of this stuff if you've had books like Drugs as a Weapon Against Us, or Dave McGowan's books discuss this in regard to the music industry, organized crime, and the Laurel Canyon scene, which included a lot of the pop stars and the pop bands that we know about from the 60s and 70s, right? So the Doors, the Mamas and the Papas, Frank Zappa, those were all also very closely connected to military intelligence and the CIA. For example, a lot of people don't know that Jim Morrison's dad, Admiral Morrison, was involved in the false flag of the Gulf of Tonkin incident. It's a very famous thing. So when we get back to this issue of Diddy, so let's get back to Diddy. So Diddy is in the circles of the black gangster Frank Lucas, and when there was a death, I think it was Diddy's dad, Diddy's mom decided to take him out of that life. She wanted to get him away from that, so she took him to the suburbs and somehow ended up in the circles of the mogul Clive Davis, who is a American record producer and some relative of Merrick Garland. which is pretty wild. So you'll notice that a lot of big pop star figures kind of seem to have direct adjacent, even people like Whitney Houston, in the circles of this person. And this seems to be the means by which Diddy is introduced to and taught the ways of the music industry, is what I'm trying to get at. So the ways of the music industry end up being apparently a lot of wild parties, ORGY, and this is the period of, and I'll be honest with you, I can't remember all of this historical details. This is a bunch of stuff I don't really care about, I don't really keep up with, or to me it's all kind of confusing. There's Uptown Records, there's Def Jam. It's all like overlapping. So Uptown is in the 1980s and 90s. It's really the origin of hip hop. And then that spawns Bad Boy. Is that right? Yeah, okay, so Bad Boy is founded by Diddy in 1993 out of this earlier scene. And this is where we get... Is that where Tupac... Is Tupac from Bad Boy? Bad Boy starts signing people, right? Like, isn't it like B.I.G., Tupac... is this right? I'm forgetting Death Row, excuse me. So in between these is Death Row. And this is like... Dr. Dre, Suge Knight, right? So Suge Knight's like the organized crime figure behind Death Row, right? Yeah, so Tupac is signed to Death Row which comes out of, this is so confusing, which comes out of Bad Boy or no, before Bad Boy. Bad Boy comes out of this, that's right, out of Death Row. But at Death Row Records, there are a lot of strange things that begin to happen. Death Row is supposedly founded by Snoop and Suge Knight. No, excuse me. It's founded by Suge Knight, Dr. Dre in 1991. And there's a bunch of crazy stuff that starts happening at Death Row. We start having people who were connected to this wanting to write tell-alls about their time at Death Row. And about Diddy. And then they start ending up unalived. For example, we have the case of Kim. And Kim is Diddy's wife who ends up unalived. Because I think she was one of the first to say that Diddy was crazy and requiring all this just degenerate, nasty stuff. Like, she's going to sleep with everybody, and he's going to film it, and he's going to sleep with everybody too and film it, right? So that there's something going on here. He has her phone tapped. He's harassing her, and then supposedly she dies from pneumonia. Okay. But that's not the only situation. Another of this circle, is it Craig Mack that becomes the evangelical? Craig Mack dies. And I think Craig Mack is the one that runs off to be some kind of crazy evangelical trying to get away from this stuff. Yes, Craig Mack leaves. Everybody remember Mace? Mace also leaves. For a while becomes some kind of evangelical and becomes some kind of preacher. I don't know if he still is or not. This is tied to gang crime and organized crime through the East-West feud, which begins with Suge Knight slapping Biggie's bodyguard. And there's something going on with this slapping of the bodyguard that leads to the East-West feud, supposedly. And then Diddy seems to be involved in this, and there's allegations that Diddy is the one that called for the hit against B.I.G. and maybe even involved in the Tupac death. So all of these long-time famous conspiracies seems to be the secrets seem to be emerging now. What was really going on with all this? And there's an album, by the way, that shows Tupac, I think, wearing a dress here. So Tupac's Machiavelli album has Notorious P.I.G. and is that supposed to be Diddy wearing a dress? I guess that's Diddy wearing a dress. So you got Tupac basically putting out dirt that Diddy likes Skittles stuff, which turns out that was true, right? So that this has all come out apparently to be true. This was from his Machiavelli album, which, if I recall, didn't Tupac's... I never listened to much to Tupac, but I think the Machiavelli album talks about the Illuminati, doesn't it? And by the way, interesting, this is when we begin to see rappers engaged in this sort of blasphemous stuff where they picture themselves as Christ. Yes, it's called the Don Killuminati. That's the subtitle of the album. Machiavelli, the Don Killuminati. In other words, he's like the Don and he's going to kill the Illuminati. I don't exactly know what he means, but clearly he's involved in this feud with Diddy and Biggie and the moguls above Diddy. And so it's not surprising that, once again, Tupac didn't seem to survive this battle here. He got. And by the way, I'm not saying this makes him a good guy, because there's a lot of accusations and insinuations that Tupac was a little light in the loafers. Y'all know what I'm talking about? When he was like back here, 17-year-old Tupac interview, he sounds a little sweet, if you know what I mean, back in these days. Let's see if we can pull this up. Again, it's funny because it shows that gangster rap was completely made up. And none of the people who are in gangster rap, no, I wouldn't say none of them, but 90% of them are not gangsters. They're mama's boys and kind of light in the loafer boys.
Are you rolling, Eddie?
Okay, my name is Tupac Shakur, and I attend Tampapai High School.
So my name is Tupac Shakur. He's a little bit, he got a little sass in him, don't he? That's your gangster right there. That's your gangster. That's your hard gangster right there. And the same thing with Dr. Dre. He was in some kind of like, I don't know what it was, some kind of like Tony type band, bopping around and acting goofy before he was suddenly, oh, he's a hard gangster. Dr. Dre is still embarrassed by his musical past. Well, he looks like a bunch of Al B. Sure mixed with village people. So definitely not gangster. World class wrecking crew. There's your hard gangster right there, looking goofy. So people were noticing. What's funny is that people were noticing this 10 years ago, and say, "Hey, wait a minute! These people look like goofballs and acted like girls before they was flashy, sassy boys before they were hard gangsters. So wait a minute, something's up." Right? So from looking like MC Hammer to this. Okay. Now, I think Eazy-E was like, as far as I'm aware, Eazy-E's like the only one that was actually involved in crime. That was actually a thug. But like the rest of them were a bunch of... So this is a corporate creation. Look. I mean, literally the world-class wrecking crew was literally dressing up like the Village people, dude. That's what I'm saying. And we all know the Village people were certainly not hardened thugs. The Village people were hardened, but in a different way. So, and there's other examples too. Like other people have found other situations where, hey, wait a minute, these so-called gangster rappers were a bunch of like fake and gray dudes. What are you talking about? This is fake. And people were figuring that out like 10, 15 years ago. Well, now, and by the way, Sam Tripoli did a great podcast where he even found like there was some rapper that was Biggie before Biggie, and they just basically took that dude's rap and gave it to Biggie. So even Biggie's kind of a fake. Let's see if we can find that. Yeah, so everybody has been talking about this. Did Biggie copy Mississippi rapper Big Daddy? And the song sounds just like him, so...
Zaxby's new chicken finger tacos.
I think the answer is yes.
You heard about the notorious B1 and from Mississippi. He had a song called Big Daddy that was released in 1993.
I love it when you call me Big Daddy.
And it used the same sample that Juicy used that, you know, Big came out with.
And why would this be surprising if Diddy is the one that originally signs Biggie, if I remember right, and then basically says, I'm gonna have this over you. You're gonna be. I mean, it's not like SCX compromise is the only way to compromise, right? He might have compromised him by this, and basically be like, look, I have this dirt on you forever. I could ruin you by forever. At any point, I can say, look, I'm going to leak this, that Biggie stole this from this random no-name rapper. See, that's another form of blackmail. Now, the other thing that surprises a lot of people that came out about Diddy, was that Diddy had this comment. I wish somebody could find it because it's from that old stupid TV show. Remember how Diddy used to have a TV show, Puff Daddy, where he was a mogul, and it was a reality show where he's trying to hire interns. It was the dumbest thing ever. And no, I didn't watch it, but for some reason I did catch clips here and there. But somebody found a clip where in the show, the interns are saying, hey, we got to hire some new talent. And he says, all right, well, but when you go out and hire talent, do not hire actually talented people. And the interns are like, what? And he has to explain to them, this is the late 90s, so Diddy had figured this out by the late 90s. He said, no, hire no talent people, because then they're completely dependent upon you. If you hire talented people, they are smart enough, and they can go do their own thing. They don't need you. If you hire untalented people, they are forever under your control. And somebody needs to find that clip, because that's right. I mean, that's telling you everything right there. Yeah, I think you're somebody saying that Jay-Z copied Biggie. I think a lot of rap is a bunch of fake copying and stealing and grifting. Shocker, right? Now, beyond that, we also have this character that pops up called Farnsworth. And, I mean, by this time, it's like, wait a minute. Something's fake about all this. Okay, so Farnsworth pops up as this openly Skittles personal assistant to Diddy. And Farnsworth is basically according to him, a Skittles SEX slave of Diddy. Now, you can't always trust the gossip of Skittles men. But does anybody believe this is hard? Is this hard to believe nowadays? And this is that dude, if you don't remember, who was always walking around holding the umbrella. Holding P. Diddy's umbrella over him. This is so stupid. That's him right there. This is, I mean, dude, this is obviously faking great, right? And people are watching this like, wait a minute. Now, this is like, at the same time, remember, late 2000s, early 2010s, you start having people coming out, and even before that, Professor Griff came out saying rap is fake and gray. Remember those clips? Remember that? And everybody said, oh, he's crazy, he's full of it, he's a conspiracy person. That's not true. Because he was destroying the image of everybody's, I mean, I didn't care about these rappers, but I'm saying like a lot of normies and a lot of dum-dums who believe that, oh yeah, man, these people are hard, these are gangsters, dude. These dudes is for real. This is his assistant? Give me a break, dude. Farnsworth was Diddy concubine. He was a man. So I like it even better that it says his concubine. I mean, he is actually going to be treated like royalty, right? He's got a dude that walks around holding an umbrella. I mean, that's like Queen Elizabeth type crap, right? What's Kiki up to? Kiki said he got a concubine.
We're starting to see some of the interesting sides of Diddy that I just bet y'all didn't see coming. For years, fans have wondered how and why Fonz disappeared from the industry, because he had a good thing going and was well on his way to making a name for himself in Hollywood. And I'm not just talking about him being Diddy's assistant and stylist, because he was so much more than that. Diddy at all times
Did he have a damn concubine? That's actually really funny to call it a concubine. Oh man, Farnsworth is like Chani. You know what I'm saying? He like Chani to Paul Atreides. He just a concubine. Anyway, so basically the whole industry is all fake and gray, and it's all just a bunch of blackmail. That's a long story short. And guess what? It's just like this, like Whitney Webb's book says. Now, I also wanted to mention a couple other odd things that popped up, like Al B. Sure. Remember Al B. Sure from the 90s? It is Al B. Sure, right? I had to make sure about this. Yes. So Al B. Sure was going to write a book, either him or Heavy D, I forget who. One of them was going to write a book about their bad experiences with Diddy and Death Row or Bad Boy Records, whatever. Whoever. Anyway, dude ends up in a coma all of a sudden. See? He ends up in a coma. I don't remember how, but he's in the circles of all these goofballs, and then he ends up in a coma. A book's going to come out. Well, guess what? There's no book coming out now. Now, remember, people also said all the same stuff about not just Diddy, but Quincy Jones. And wasn't it Quincy Jones that rescued Wall Smoth's career? Is that true? Y'all remember that? I think Will Smith tells this story, right? Wall Smoth, is that true? Is that right?
Quincy Jones brought in Fresh Prince.
Okay, here we go. Here's Professor Griff saying that Quincy Jones created Wall Smoth.
And his first movie was 6 Degrees of Separation. It was the homo ritual. This is where the homo came out against it, but I didn't mind. I wasn't.
So here's Professor Griff in like 2005 or 6 saying that you get Skittles initiated. He calls it a ritual. The very same thing that Cat Williams said 6 months ago. It's a ritual, Joe. It's a ritual, okay? There's a ritual. Ain't nobody going in my booty hole, Joe, okay? This is a ritual, and they do this on purpose, Joe, okay?
Talking about I'm saying there's a homo ritual that they go through in the Illuminati secret societies.
Now, what happens to be a secret society that uses Skittles rituals? Anybody know what secret society uses as one of their higher degrees the booty hole entrance way? Do y'all know? It just happens to be Crowley. It just happens to be Aleister Crowley, Joe, okay? Yes, the very things that we just talked about. Crowleyan booty magic. Booty sorcery. I'm talking about that exit only. Becoming an entry, okay? That's what I'm talking about, Joe. That wasn't Cat Williams, that was me. Cat Williams is like this, okay, Joe? It's a ritual, okay? It's Hermes Trismegistus, okay? It's that hermaphrodite ritual, Joe, okay? Exactly.
At the end of the day, I lost it, you know? It's hard. And I guess the thing that was most painful for me is I took my heart and made it hard for other people.
Actor Will Smith has apparently made some startling revelations that confirm all that fans have been saying for years. Though many people are not surprised by the recent revelations, they feel that it's about time the iRobot star came clean. These recent exposés come on the back of Diddy's which include a litany of court cases culminating in feds storming his houses in LA and Miami. We don't know what the future holds for the iconic actor now that he has purportedly confirmed people's suspicions, but many believe it would open Pandora's box. And if it does, many fans think we will have another high-profile celebrity scandal on our hands, a scandal probably worse than Diddy's. So
did you hear that? There's a possibility now of the whole thing unraveling, because if Diddy goes down, this ignites a fuse, and possibly this goes to Quincy or any of these other booty ritual proponents. So guess what? That's entertainment, bro. It's all this way. It's all fucking great, dude. Like we've been saying. And the conspiracy people are vindicated. I don't agree, obviously, with Professor Griff on everything. But, dude, Professor Griff was saying this 15, 20 years ago. And he's correct. You don't have to be correct on everything to get some things right. You see what I'm saying?
Rumor has Will Smith seemingly confirmed, and what does the future look like for the 52-year-old actor? Stay tuned as I serve you with hot gossip that might surprise you and give you insight into the evil workings of
dude's got an Amish beard going on right there. What is that?
Of the entertainment industry.
Will Smith about to become Amish to get away from all this stuff.
At the end of the day, I lost it, you know? It's hard. And I guess the thing that was most painful for me is I took my heart and made it hard for other people.
Actor Will Smith can't stay out of the limelight since his slap Heard the World went viral. The Bad Boys actor's reputation took a nosedive since that now infamous incident and has been going down faster than the speed of light. Since then, several people have accused him of being gay, citing they saw him in the act. The seasoned actor has rarely spoken about such issues, but has denied them through his various representatives and spokespersons. His loyal fans have also backed him whenever issues of that nature crop up, arguing that the actor was a family man with 3 children. They explained that Will had all the right to come out of the closet if really he was gay, but he hasn't because he's not. They've been at pains to explain away all the alleged incidents in which Will was purportedly sleeping with a man fan and going to all lengths to defend his innocence. Interestingly, news reaching us indicates that Will Smith has let his fans and defenders down by admitting that he actually was a bi. According to unconfirmed sources, the actor made this revelation in a live Q&A session with a private group of fans. Now, I can't ascertain the veracity of this news, but the interesting part. The Deep Throat sources present in the purported live broadcast claim that Will Smith detailed how he got into all the gay activities, and it was mind-blowing. His revelations kind of synced with what Suge Knight said about Diddy a few weeks ago on the PBD podcast. In Knight's estimation, Diddy was mistreated by his mentor, Clive Davis, which had a psychological effect on him, hence his treatment of artists under his label.
What did we just say? Right there.
But hold that thought. I'll come to that in a bit. For now, let me serve you what Will Smith purportedly revealed. According to unconfirmed sources, Will Smith allegedly laid all the blame at the door of legendary music producer Quincy Jones for...
What'd I say? By the way, is that Madonna or is that Quincy Jones? I can't even tell. They pretty much look the same.
What he is today. He apparently explained that he had to do Quincy Jones's bidding to get to where he is today. Detailing how it all happened, the actor claimed...
Again, think about this. I mean, obviously not every conspiracy theorist is right, but how often are we right? All the stuff the conspiracy theorists say about the music industry, the movie industry, for the most part. Not the really wild stuff. Oh, they're Anunnakis in Hollywood. Not that kind of stuff. This kind of stuff. Like, this kind of stuff usually comes out and is usually right. That's what I'm trying to say. And this shows it's a network, it's a club of only getting up to the higher levels through humiliation. How long have we said this about the idiot pop star girls who are recruited into this, get humiliated, and then they have to do the public humiliation rituals? This is the same thing right here.
That he met the legendary music producer to help him get his music career off the ground. Mind you, Will's goal then was to be a rapper and not an actor. So one evening, Quincy Jones invited him to a party, and when he got there, the veteran music producer asked him to audition for a role in an upcoming TV series.
My beatus, oh, I gotta have a ginger. I gotta have a ginger. Y'all, this is getting to me right now. I got to have a ginger right now. My beatus is getting to me, y'all. I'm starting to get upset because I knew I was right about all this for so long, girl. Honey, we called it.
Young Will felt trapped and asked Quincy Jones to give him some time to think about it and prepare. Will then went to the library and thought of abandoning the whole idea because he just wanted to be a rapper. However, he mustered courage and then gave it his all in the audition. Later, he was
mustered courage,
and that was how he became.
What the hell is mustard courage? Mustard courage? I got no mustard courage. What the hell y'all talking about? I gotta keep my beatus down, y'all. Anyway, if you want to support the stream, you can do so via the super chat function right here. Anyway, I don't think we need to go through all of this, but you get the idea. These people are abused and brought into this system, and then they try to make them into purveyors of this system.
Diddy's first rodeo in the hip-hop industry was as an intern at Uptown Records, which was then headed by the late Andre Harrell. He was in charge of artists and repertoire and worked with the likes of Mary
Oh, I forgot this ties into Jacko. This is its own, this is all the rabbit holes in the Hollywood music industry that all comes into this same manifestation of Illuminati rabbit hole right here. It's all this, it all connects. I forgot about all this. That Ian Carroll dude did a whole... Yes, I forgot to bring that up. I saved that video. Let me see if I can find it. Jacko. Did you know this also ties into Jacko? Now, I've gone back and forth about Jacko because he was so kind of wacky. But now I'm starting to wonder, wait a minute, maybe Jacko was framed too. Now, I mean, look, Jacko is weird as heck, but... And he might have been guilty of some things, but that doesn't mean he was necessarily guilty of everything. So this could be a... Let's see what is this, that Ian Carroll dude? I forget this guy's name, but I wanted to play you guys this too. This is interesting. This is the Jacko angle too.
I've been going back to the guy that shot up the Trump Hotel back in 2018 and listening to the interview he gave before he was put in jail.
No, this is it.
And we're about to go. The following is a mandatory tinfoil hat zone. I've been going back to the guy that shot up the Trump Hotel.
Oh.
Gave in the hospital.
I've totally forgot this. The Trump event. Interesting.
Before he was put in jail. And we're about to go Diddy, street, drug smuggling, but also Trump, Obama, Hillary, human trafficking, the Black Boule, everything. This shit is so wild. And it's going to take multiple videos to parse out. We're talking about this guy, Jonathan Odie. And way back...
I totally forgot this dude, this whole thing. And remember, too, speaking of human trafficking, this ties into John of God stuff, too, because who's Oprah friends with? All the same people. Why is Oprah promoting John of God and that cult, which ended up being a human trafficking cult? Remember that? And they scrubbed that and squished that out. You don't hear about John of God anymore. But who is Diddy really close to? Oh, Oprah. Interesting. And everybody in the DNC, by the way.
Back in 2018, before the Cassie lawsuit, before the Lil Rod lawsuit, before they raided Diddy's home, before they arrested Diddy, he claimed that he was a Diddy sex slave and that he had sex with Cassie and Diddy multiple times.
Now, keep in mind, this dude that he's talking about, this dude's nuts. Okay, so not everything this dude says is necessarily true, because not the guy making the video, the Jonathan Odie or whatever his name is. That guy's nuts. He's got some wild claims. However, some of his claims appear to actually be correct, and the recent arrest and all this has borne some of that out. That's what's interesting.
He claims he contracted herpes. He sued them. He won. He claims they're going to try to kill Trump, and he's trying to warn Trump. He claims a lot of things, and some of them are just out there.
By the way, who did we talk about? We when I was on Sam Hyde's podcast, we talked about Diddy and the Boule, which is what he's talking about, which is like the Black Secret Society right here. Now, when we did this podcast, that day we were filming that at Sam Hyde's, the story was going viral on TikTok that Diddy was going to name names. That ended up being a fake video, which we didn't know that day that this broke, because it was literally happening right when I was filming it. And they started talking about it. It was new to me. I didn't know about it. So that part of this video is incorrect. However, the rest of what we talk about in this video, and this video has over 300,000 on YouTube, so that's over 500,000 combined on this talk. If you watch this, we actually called a lot of this too, because we went into the Boule Society, which this guy brings up.
But some of them.
Oh, the reason I mention that is that that's like the... It's like the black version of the Freemasons mixed with college fraternities. If you don't know about this, this is an interesting... And I'm assuming that Sigma Pi Phi, I'm going to bet that that people like Oprah and I'll bet you Morgan Freeman, basically all of the black Democratic elite, they're all tied into this. And this recruits black people out of college is why this is relevant. MLK was part of it. Let's see. I mean, I'm not saying that this runs the world. I'm just saying that it's one of the many interconnected societies that is part of the establishment that networks, but it's a network for prominent black people. Yes, is there a black society of elite? And I think, anyway, I would assume that all of the most powerful black leaders like Oprah are also involved in this. The word means council of chiefs or advisors to kings. Boule was, for much of its existence, an invitation-only society for black men. Okay, so I guess technically it's not for women, but still. Some have said it's a black version of Skull and Bones. That's very likely possible. Let's see if there's any connection to that in Oprah. The Boulay-Oprah connection. Let's see.
Starts a question, which is the Black Boule.
Boule?
Boule.
What does that mean?
Boule, which is, you could say, the secret organization of rich black folks, millionaires and billionaires who are working on behalf of the system of white supremacy. They had a cartoon about it in T-Pain.
Yeah, they're not working to prop up white supremacy. I can tell you that. So, a lot of people's conspiracy theories, especially black people's conspiracy theories, they're always like half true, and then it's like the end goal is something ridiculous, right? It's like the real goal of this society is to prevent us from creating pyramids that can actually fly and that are tricked out. That's not the goal, dude. Come on. Anyway, we don't even need to know if Oprah is part of this. I mean, Oprah's obviously like super corrupt, so do we even need that?
Corroborated by things we've learned since. And in this first video, we're going to dig into what he calls the hip-hop agenda. But first, if you're not familiar with what happened and what this dude did to get arrested, let's watch a tape. So this is security camera footage from Trump National Hotel Doral, Miami, Florida. And this is from back in 2018. And it's sped up, and there's a couple places where the stamp time lasted. I won't show you the whole thing. And he runs. He gets shot 3 times.
I'm gonna skip
spent
this
3 hours last night
for YouTube,
transcribing it all and trying to figure out his voice because he's got a super weird voice. And I've been digging through corroborating all the crazy things he says in this interview. But one of the most interesting things is about the hip-hop agenda. Before we get to that, let's do the Diddy stuff, because he made all these claims before anyone officially knew anything about Diddy. Check this out.
Do you know Sean Combs?
Puff Daddy?
Yeah.
P. Diddy, whatever you call himself.
Yeah. I had sex with Cassie and Sean. Basically, he would masturbate and tell me what to do with Cassie. I had like 15 encounters, and I heard lots of business. Because what they would do is Sean talks a lot on the phone and on the TV with speakers and stuff, and I was like a sex slave, okay? For them, that's what I want.
So he's saying in these interrogations that Diddy has cameras everywhere and he makes everybody into being SEX slaves. And of course, everybody thought, well, you're just some crazy like SHOOTER man. So this is nonsense. But it turns out pretty much everything even though he's crazy, what he's saying is true.
That's all. All right. I called herpes, and I came back and I sued for the herpes and won. But they didn't. Mark Garagos and Ben Mercedes were his attorneys, okay? And Christopher Leon's here was my attorney. They asked me to turn in that, which was the video recording, and I did so.
Looking into the lawyers he just named, there's all kinds of dirt down that rabbit hole, but that's for another video. But when you watch the interview...
So those are all connected to Jacko, the lawyers he's talking about.
You can tell that the investigators are like, this guy's fucking schizophrenic. What the hell is he talking about? And he like keeps on trying to like redirect him without making him feel defensive as though they don't believe him. But now we know that what he said about Diddy was 100% on point. Like in a way that you could only know if you actually were.
Ian Carroll looks like a cross between like an 80s police officer that's gonna pull you over, but also the guy that's gonna sell you the weed at the same time. Like he looks like the perfect crossover between the weed dealer, but also, if he didn't have the long hair, the cop that would be pulling you over and giving you a ticket and searching your car. So he's an interesting person.
A Diddy sex slave. Because if you don't know, Diddy liked to pay sex workers to have sex with his girlfriend, and he would watch and film and direct and jerk off, as well as a whole bunch of other super dark shit. Now, let's get into the juicy part right here. The hip-hop agenda.
Basically, what happened is the hip-hop agenda is an agenda to move drugs law in the United States. You need to report the DEA. They move all the dope. Okay, all the dope on private jets, which don't get screened by customs, by DEA.
So this guy says that hip hop is a cover for moving dope through the private jets, which that sounds exactly like the kind of stuff we've talked about over here, right? I mean, that's like Barry Seal type stuff, except that instead of it being some dude, who's claims to be bringing cigars from Cuba, it's not cigars.
Inside the United States, okay, they move what's called high-grade powdered MDMA. They move cocaine and they move liquid cocaine in the bottles too. Okay, so they put the liquid cocaine in the bottles and they move it. I've seen the liquid cocaine, I've drank it myself, having sex with Diddy and Cassie. Okay, it's not good. He drinks all the time.
So he's saying Diddy is involved in bringing in a lot of high-grade liquid cocaine and other forms of it. I don't know if that's true, but it wouldn't surprise me. And isn't that interesting that if we go back to one of the first Biggie hits, in Hypnotize, the very video has them running from the DEA, supposedly for probably criminal activities. I think the video doesn't exactly make it clear what they're up to, but in the song, Biggie raps about the DEA and all this, the feds coming after him, and they're like James Bond villains on the boat, right? They've got money and hoes, and they're fleeing from the feds on their Bond yachts and stuff, right? Right? And the whole video is basically them running from the feds, presumably because they're running illegal operations. And they're pictured here like Bond villains, etc. And then I think they end up getting away in the video. Remember that? I just thought that was funny because this kind of sounds like what this guy's describing in there, that their operation is really about. Again, we don't know if that's the case, but that might have been why he was allowed to continue on.
Or I call it GG, that's liquid cocaine. Alright. How do I know there's a conspiracy against Trump? Because it's in the Illuminati card deck. He should have.
Okay, we're about to go into the Illuminati card deck and all sorts of other things.
So again, this dude is half nuts, right? The fact that something's in the Illuminati card deck doesn't mean that it's true. But there are some weird things about the Illuminati card deck. But regardless, like what this guy's saying does seems kind of like it's possible.
That's for another video. And yes, we're going to have a disclaimer about the amount of tinfoil required for this in just a second. But first, Sigma Pi Phi, or the Black Boule, is the oldest black fraternity in the United States.
I covered this with Sam Hyde, so I wonder if Ian Carroll watches our stuff, because we just covered this on the Sam Hyde podcast.
States, and this
like 6 months ago.
It's symbol, and it's a real thing. And it used to be kind of a secret society, and now it's like a public fraternity all across the U.S. And that symbol looks an awful lot like LeBron's chest tattoo.
Yeah, again, it's the fraternity for the black elite. And, of course, it's not surprising that LeBron would definitely be probably somebody associated with this.
For starters, Black Boule deserves a whole other video, as does LeBron James. But y'all remember Juice WRLD? Who died suddenly of a heart attack during a police raid on his plane where they found 41 vacuum-sealed bags of marijuana?
So, the concerts happen to be covert covers for trafficking various illegal substances, it seems. And that makes absolutely perfect sense. By the way, we've covered where movie filming events are also covers for this. In fact, it even came out in one of the stories about Arnon Milchan that was a cover for Mossad operations or something like that. There's an allegation that Milchan's films were various operations other than just making a movie. Ben Affleck made a whole movie that he won an Academy Award for, Argo, where Argo was a cover for a CIA operation. Red Scorpion with Dolph. Jack Abramoff is the producer of that movie. Again, there's all kinds of weird things like this, which I think are very sus. And point to this beyond the music world, also into the Hollywood world.
Died of a heart attack during the raid. Kind of weird. He was 21 years old at the time. And there are many instances of people getting caught smuggling drugs on private planes. All of these guys apparently did not have the protection of the rap industry or the Black Boule or whoever. I'm serious. Tons of different instances.
Well, it's not just the rap industry and the boule. It's the State Department. It's intelligence agencies. It's that entrenched superstructure.
But it gets even more interesting when you look at what rappers own private jets. We'll skip to number 2, Diddy, whose plane is renowned for its intercontinental range. But number 1 is Jay-Z, and it was a gift from Bay, meaning probably a tax write-off, because they're pretty smart business people. Then you got Drake, who, aside from Russian oligarch, Saudi Prince Al-Walid bin Talal, at least formerly before they confiscated it, whole other Vegas shooting rabbit hole, Drake's plane is one of the 5 largest private jets in the world at the time, in 2023. Lil Wayne, Rick Ross, who is mentioned in this interview directly, 50 Cent, and Travis Scott.
So it looks like part of the rap deal is that you're also going to be involved in other types of operations, allegedly.
There's probably more. That's just who was in that one article. And speaking of liquid cocaine, Ciroc vodka and De Leon tequila are mentioned multiple times in the original lawsuit, and they had partnerships directly with Diddy. But it's hard to tell what of this guy's testimony is him knowing things from firsthand knowledge versus him self-admittedly just doing a whole bunch of internet research and piecing things together and deciding to save the world by warning Donald Trump about a plot to kill him by his cousins, all the other presidents, Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama. And if you're a real conspiracy nut, you might be like, yeah, dude. And if you're not, you might be like, yeah, this guy's fucking crazy. And you might fall somewhere in the middle. And that.
Yeah, I mean, this was before all the stuff coming out about Diddy. See, so even though this dude is crazy, crazy people can say things that are correct. They can know, stuff that was really going down. Just because they're crazy doesn't mean it's not true. Let's see, I thought there was another Ian Carroll clip about Diddy. I was gonna play. I don't know. I'm not sure, but before we do that, I want to remind you of this. Because this also is a telling admission of the very stuff that we've covered for so long. Now, this doesn't mean that she necessarily is directly doing NATO propaganda. It means that it's very likely that she could be, and that it's very clear that this is a normal thing for NATO to engage in.
Star in the world. Sorry, Gutfeld. She's been blanketed across the sports media entertainment atmosphere. The New York Times just speculated she's a lesbian. And last year's tour broke Ticketmaster. A tour that's revenue tops the GDP of 50 countries. I mean, I like her music. She's all right. But, I mean, have you ever wondered why or how she blew up like this? Well, around 4 years ago, the Pentagon's Psychological Operations Unit floated turning Taylor Swift into an asset during a NATO meeting. What kind of asset? A PSYOP for combating online misinformation. Listen.
You came in here wanting to understand how you just go out there and counter an information operation. Well, the idea is that social influence can help encourage or promote behavior change, so potentially as like a peaceful information operation. I include Taylor Swift in here because she's a fairly influential online person. I don't know if you've heard of her.
Yeah, that's real. The Pentagon PSYOP unit pitched NATO on turning Taylor Swift into an asset.
Again, huge vindication of things that we've talked about for 15 years over here. Do you know how many times I've been called insane conspiracy theorists for this stuff, which is easily documented? And this is something that, Elvis was involved in large-scale propaganda for the U.S. military back in his day. Why would anyone think that this is false? And then they immediately all are proponents for the Democratic candidates. Remember, Katy Perry was suddenly she played all the Democratic events. She's always playing DNC events because she also is part of this superstructure. Mike Benz, who we met, cool guy, got to had dinner with him, really cool guy. I think he might be the guy that broke it, but here he is watching the actual women, NATO women, discussing this.
Most common is working with famous people or being influencers to share information, a particular message. So I include Taylor Swift in here because...
Are you fucking kidding me? NATO Psychological Operations Unit.
Vindicated. How long have we been talking about this? Vindicated. Thank you guys for the super chats. We got a super chat from the other stream, last stream that I did not get to. I want to make sure I didn't miss anybody. J Mel, thank you. That's it. J Mel sends $40 and says, "This is a tremendous week. Have a happy New Year." Thank you. We're a little ways from New Year, but I'll take it. Dire Side Cheek, $3. Diddy dem diddly cookies, Danny Dinkus. I don't know what that means, but I like it. Diddy dem diddly cookies, Danny Dinkus. Pink cookies in a plastic bag, getting crushed by buildings. Big Boss, $25. This is Big Boss Rick Ross. It is sad to find out that espionage isn't so much about super cool spy stuff, but getting pictures of booty holes. Correct. It's very lame and boring and cringe and fake and gray. This is up there with finding out that WWE isn't real. Exactly. It's time to burst your bubbles. Agent Zero, $1. Hey, Jay, what about Philippians 2, 5-11? Is this a good refutation of Muslims that blaspheme the Trinity and that Jesus is God? Well, yeah, it clearly says that he was equal to the Father, but also became incarnate. And I think usually if you read that to Muslims, they'll just say, Bible corrupt. Paul created Christianity, even though the Quran says that the followers of Jesus will be successful until the return, until the end of the world. So, again, their own Quran constantly contradicts everything. Riot Cult, $5. This is off topic, but can you recommend any good science fiction reading if you have something in mind? Good sci-fi? Dune. Dune is the best sci-fi. Hands down, Dune. And then C.S. Lewis Space Trilogy, right? We did multiple podcasts on the entire C.S. Lewis Space Trilogy. That's probably the best. It's actually Christian science fiction, which is like there's almost little to none of that. So the one example of Christian science fiction is C.S. Lewis Space Trilogy. It's excellent. And Dune, which isn't really Christian, but still great. Understory Bard, $5. Do you think the gatekeepers of the music industry have always had a connection to the government, or is it more of a recent 80s development? No, it's always been there. Always. I mean, Elvis had handlers. I don't know if Colonel Tom was directly connected to the government, but there's something going on there, definitely, with Elvis having handlers. Maybe more organized crime people, I think, that he answered to during the Vegas phase. But it's always there, and this is why I wrote 2 books on this topic. So you can get Esoteric Hollywood 1 and 2 at my website. The shop is in the show description, Jason Ellis' shop, and you'll find there my website shop where you can get signed copies. So remember, every book that you buy from the website, they're all signed copies. That's the whole premise of buying it from me and not from Amazon, is that even though it's a little bit more, you're not giving money to Jeff Bezos and you get a signed copy. But the answer is yes. They've always had that connection, and it's the same in the Hollywood as it is for music. Philip 12, $1. Can you do a top 5 reasons that I'm not Hebrew Israelite? That could be a funny video. But if you listen to that hour-long debate with a Hebrew Israelite, that one's actually really entertaining. Alula, $5. Here, take my money. I do not want any booty sorcery. No booty sorcery. No Diddy. Exactly. I'm on team no booty sorcery as well. Eric G, $1. Is P. Diddler part of the Hollywood collapse? Why is it blowing up now? Yes, I think so. I mean, I think at a certain point, so many of these people abuse so many people that eventually there's just so many abused that they just say, all right, I don't care anymore. We're going to come out with it. And that's what happened with Jeff Stein McGeffrey. And that's what's happening with all of these victims of this entrenched uniparty, deep state degeneracy, what's the word I'm looking for? Skittles world order. Does $5. Have you covered the Justin Bieber 48 hours with Diddy? Yeah, actually we did on the stream that Tristan and I did. So if you go back about 7 months, I did about 3 podcasts on the stuff that we're talking about today. We covered the Bieber weirdness. And yeah, it would be interesting to figure out if somebody would admit what happened at that time, that Bieber was like staying at Diddy's house and having sleepovers. Bro, you're like a grown man. Why you got little pop boys having sleepovers? That's faking gray, dude. Right away. By the way, before we move on, we got a couple more things I want to look at. I do have to remind you, we do have an awesome toxic masculinity based sponsor for the show.
Chad Mode is your ultimate natural pre-workout, designed to take your performance to the next level. Chad Mode is for natty beast alphas only. Whether you're hitting the gym, invading a favela, conquering a small village, gambling, burning the midnight oil, mogging on your coworkers, or getting banned from Facebook, Chad Mode gives you the competitive edge you need. It's as simple as mixing 1 or 2 scoops of our fine powder into water or juice, providing you with a delicious, energizing beverage featuring a burst of sweet, organic fruit flavor. Chad Mode will give you the extra edge you desperately crave. Chad Mode stands out from the crowd by excluding artificial flavors, preservatives, sweeteners, and dyes. We've even avoided so-called natural flavors, ensuring a clean and effective formula. Only soy boys and betas guzzle blue dye and sucralose, further tanking their already low testosterone levels. Chad Mode is made in America. Unlike your common TikTok peasant's pre-workout powder, it does not contain Chinese lab-made caffeine and artificial sweeteners that soy boys so often crave. Experience the pure goodness of Chad Mode with Blue Magic registered trademark organic blue spirulina extract, organic lemon, cherry, and organic maple crystals. Forget synthetic caffeine. Embrace the natural power of organic green coffee bean extract. Each dose of Chad Mode mirrors the caffeine kick of a cup and a half of coffee, delivering a surge of energy alongside essential vitamins, minerals, amino acids, and herbal extracts. Chad Mode will allow you to fire your boss and mog on anyone who opposes you. Chad Mode will give you a dominant and aggressive edge, like a lion hunting a gazelle, where the gazelle is a TikTok gym zoomer macro guzzling sucralose on the daily, edging to TNF videos. Whether you're seeking a high-potency, junk-free pre-workout or a better way to kickstart your day, Chad Mode has you covered. It's not just for men. Chad Mode is a solution for anyone ready to conquer their fitness and life goals, dominate their coworkers, and aggressively gamble their life savings. Don't miss out. Secure your supply of Chad Mode on TikTok Shop with a limited-time massive discount. Elevate your workouts and supercharge your days. Chad Mode. Not for your average gym bro zoomer who guzzles.
That we're all proud of. I got a browser here. This is Jay Dyer's much vaunted, much sought after Philosophy 101. Now, he just got this page up. We are just testing it out. You guys are some of the first people in the world to see it. I want to say, for my part, it's not Philosophy 101. I think this is a mistitling. I really think of it as like Philosophy Unleashed. Because a Philosophy 101 course, they give you kind of some useless information that you can't make sense of. Jay actually lays out over 12 weeks, dozens and dozens of hours put into just the presentation of this, let alone the hundreds and thousands of hours of research that it takes to have a coherent evolution and history of the origins of philosophy, the uses of philosophy, the different ways to look at it over time, and how that has been brought about to what we have today, which is almost an absence of philosophy on the objective logic and reason side, and an overabundance of woke philosophy that is irrational and is made up day by day as people are like, I think we should bring racism back. And then here's a justification. And then it gets wokeified and spread out. And then all of a sudden you have a bunch of communist, socialist ideas where you become the property in action. You need to be able to stand your.
All right. I want to remind you guys, be sure to head on over to chalk.com. That is the show sponsor. The promo code is J40 to get 40% off any of the products. JY40 gets you 40% off every product. You can also get more of a discount by using J44Life. That's JAY44LIFE to get 44% off all these great products. You don't have to buy that stack. I do recommend the Male Performance Stack. That will help you to have action, help you in the gym. It's also possible for women to make use of this as well. You don't have to be a dude to get that. There's the Female Vitality Stack over here, which is great for the ladies. Ashwagandha, great for hormone balance. Shilajit, great adaptogen. Irish Moss as well. For the guys, I recommend the Tonkat Ali, the Action 2.0. Be careful with Chad mode. It's really stout. It will get you, your heart will be beating, it'll be ramped up. so take it easy. There's the Male Vitality Stack right there. And then the Tonkat Ali will boost your testosterone. That's my favorite. That's over at chalk.com, choq.com. That is the show sponsor. Also, be sure and follow me over here on X. Today's, actually Friday's, yesterday's Lord Voldemort did pretty good. We've got 120K, so go watch this. I took today's topic and I kind of squished it in as quick as I could, 50 minutes. So be sure and check that out. Follow me over here on X. Help me get to 100K. I want to hurry up to 100K on X so I can have a 100K X party. And I get a lot more traction, a lot quicker growth over there than I do here. So be sure and hop over there. Now, I want to talk a little bit about J-Lo because everybody's forgotten in the midst of all of this that J-Lo used to be with Diddy. Everybody's forgotten that J-Lo was with Diddy. And there's this dude back in the day. I think I put this in my book. Because if you remember, J-Lo has these weird... So she's not in a whole lot of movies, but she was in The Cell. And The Cell is all about sex-based ritual abuse, mind control, and the inner world of a multiple personality split, demon-possessed serial killer. And J-Lo is the Virgin Mary-ish integrator personality that goes in and tries to heal this MPD, Jeffrey Dahmer type dude. But if you pay attention in the movie, he's actually doing sex magic rituals. You have to pay a lot of attention. Now, that's odd, like that J-Lo's in this. But J-Lo's ex-husband claimed that she was involved in voodoo and tried to cast spells on him and others. Ojani Noah was married to J-Lo from 97 to 98. He says that she's into Santeria, set of religious practices brought to the Americas by West African slaves in the 18th, 19th centuries. It involves chanting, trances, animal sacrifice. He alleges that J-Lo would try to cast spells on him and insists her fiance, Puff Diddy, also might have been involved in this. Now, isn't that interesting? Because Diddy... Okay, so this has been scrubbed. You have to really look for these articles like this. This is interesting because Diddy has some fascinating tattoos. You say, oh, well, that's just Mary and Jesus. No. You misunderstand. This is not merely a Mary Jesus tattoo. This is a Santeria tattoo. This is a Loa. This is, what's the name of this? Ezili Danto. It's not Jesus and Mary. It's Ezili Danto, if I understand this correct. Watch this. This is crazy. Dantor. Ezili Danto is a senior spirit in Haitian voodoo. She's the queen of the Petro Nation. See this? That's what his tattoo is. Loa. This is the Loa, brother. Why are you gay? We need that guy to interview Diddy. Why are you gay? Diddy. Why are you gay? I am gay? You are gay. So a lot of dum-dums thought that, oh, he got Jesus tattoo. No, that's not Jesus. That's what's it called? Ezeli Danto. And it says King of Kings. So she's the queen of the Loa goddess, voodoo goddess people. And you can tell that baby there, that doesn't look like Jesus. That's supposed to be like a black baby. So that's like Diddy saying, oh, I'm the son of the voodoo goddess, basically. This woman. See? And I suspect that a lot of the black people who think that Jesus and Mary are black are also using this idea too. Oh, dude, look, dude, the icon is black, bro. That's because Jesus was black, dude. That's the real thing that we worshiping, right? And you hear them argue this. The black Hebrew Israelite people argue this. Here's another one. They're called Urzuli. The Urzuli are a family of Loa, or the spirits in voodoo. Urzuli is a family associated with water, femininity, and feminine bodies. And they are also women or Skittles men. You see that? These spirits are also Skittles men. Bro, that's why Diddy has this, dude. Right here. Because these are spirits. These are faking gray spirits, dude. The Black Madonna is the inspiration for Urzuli Danto. No, these are demons, dude. This has nothing to do with the Virgin Mary and Jesus. So black people need to not fall for this stupid nonsense. And they're falling for it because remember Kanye, 2019, 18, he was sharing all this stupid stuff, black Hebrew Israelite stuff. That's Jesus right there, black, bro. Mary is black. Where are they getting this? Because of Hebrew Israelite stuff and voodoo stuff. Okay, Mary is not Urzuli. And it's not anything to do with gay stuff. Then Ice Cube started sharing this stuff. So they'll get like half of stuff right, but then they'll start sharing this kind of stupid stuff, which is just idiotic. Anyway, so there's Diddy's tattoo for it right there. Now, why am I bringing that up? Well, remember, Diddy is married to J-Lo back at this time. And J-Lo, the accusation is that J-Lo is also into Santeria. Now, how does this come full circle? Well, Crowley and what he was into was actually very close to the kind of charismatic Pentecostal type stuff that the Santeria voodoo people are into. Did you know that? Did you know that Crowley and his group, they actually believe that the closest thing to their religion is immediate inspiration and possession, which they said you find in voodoo and Pentecostal charismaticism. The Crowleyites believe that. Because they believe that rather than going through all these rituals, if the goal is to get possessed by a spirit and achieve powers that way, which is what the ritual magic there is about, through the sex rituals or whatever, why not bypass all of that and just get the immediate possession and power? That's the whole purpose of the voodoo stuff. And it's exactly what they see. The occultists see the idiot charismatics and Pentecostals literally being voodoo people. They say the charismatic Pentecostal stuff is voodoo. That's why voodoo and charismatic stuff goes so closely together. And we've got J-Lo being into Santeria. She used to be married to Diddy. And the spirits, according to the public affirmation, it's not Jesus and Mary. It's the black voodoo goddess and her sometimes gay children. That's what's going on. We're still here. This was the internet just bleeped out. It wasn't getting censored. It was conspiracy stuff. Nothing to do with that. I'm just Jenny from the block. Just hit refresh. Everything's fine. I'm just Jay from the block. So now, why am I bringing up J-Lo again? Well, Jamie was telling me that it's interesting in regard to J-Lo that the internet has kind of turned on Batfleck and J-Lo. So a lot of TikTok audience people have started this trend, which is a double-edged sword actually, but they've started this trend of they hate the pop stars. Why do they hate the pop stars? Well, they've decided that the pop stars are narcissistic creeps, which is true, and they show off their ostentatious lifestyles and they hate everybody and all this stuff, which is true. But they have started a trend now of trying to mass cancel these idiots. And I haven't looked in on this exactly, but apparently J-Lo tries to have concerts now and like the audiences are empty. So apparently it's kind of working. And J-Lo, as we know, went from Diddy then to the world of Ben Affleck. Ben Affleck is somebody who I think is pretty obviously has had a long time fairly open connection to the CIA as well. Movies were made in consultation with the CIA. He was a long time affiliated with, married to Jennifer Garner, who for a time worked in PR for the CIA. And Batfleck has talked about this relationship pretty openly for a long time. In fact, there's that famous interview with the Guardian or the Telegraph where he says Hollywood and the CIA are flip sides of the same coin. Let's see if we can find it. And this is why he makes movies like Argo about this very thing we're talking about. Yeah, here it is.
In Hollywood who also moonlight as agents, do you think?
I think they're probably
Fit right in.
Are there many actors in Hollywood who also moonlight as agents, do you think?
I think there are probably quite a few, yes. I think probably Hollywood is full of CIA agents, and we just don't know it.
Fit right in.
Are there many actors in Hollywood who also moonlight as agents, do you think?
I think there are probably quite a few, yes. I think probably Hollywood is full of CIA agents, and we just don't know it.
Actors in Hollywood who also moonlight as agents, do you think?
I think there are probably quite a few, yes. I think probably Hollywood is full of CIA agents, and we just don't know it.
But we do know it. And yeah, exactly. Now, so again, isn't this interesting? Diddy, Voodoo, Crowley, it all comes together. And we even tied in Jenny from the block. Anyway, if you want to support my channel, you can do so by getting the books, subscribing to the website, the archives, subscribing over on Rockfin as well is another way to do it. Chemical Burning, $10. Thank you for all that you do. I've been watching videos on my breaks at work. I love the content. Keep what you're doing. Thank you so much, Chemical Burning. Appreciate that. Mr. Butterscotch, the rumors that you helped smuggle 1,000 bottles of baby oil into Diddy's freak off party? I covered that at the beginning of the stream, and the answer is yes. I didn't smuggle them in. I actually bravely and stunningly bravely wheeled them in publicly. So I didn't have to smuggle any baby oil. In fact, I'm the one that provided the super soakers that squirt the baby oil on all my brothers and sisters. Anyway, thank you guys. A lot of fun today. We will be back with... What are we going to cover next week? Oh, I've still got to do the part 2 of Lord of the Flies. So that's ready to go. I'll try to have that tomorrow night. Maybe